When I walked into the office that Tuesday morning, nothing felt different except everything was. I had arrived in a taxi. Again, I could feel it in the way Jennifer, my assistant, gave me a quick glance and a tight-lipped smile, the kind you give someone who's unraveling but won't admit it. I mumbled a greeting, clutched my bag to my chest, and tried not to spill my overpriced coffee as I rushed toward the elevator. I was once the woman who arrived early. Now I was just on time barely. As the elevator doors closed, I checked my phone. A message from Elena, my boss. Leadership check-in, 9 a.m., conference room B, don't be late. My stomach flipped. I stepped off the elevator and made my way to my desk, passing the familiar faces of my team. Marcus with his stainless steel travel mug. Jennifer sorting files with her signature color-coded tabs. The two new developers whose names I still mixed up. And then there was Owen, standing in front of the conference room glass wall, phone in hand, laughing at something with Elena like everything was fine. Except it wasn't. We had driven to work in silence again. His Range Rover had music playing. I didn't speak. He didn't ask me why I wasn't talking. I hadn't had my company car in almost 3 weeks. The white Audi Q7 with the buttery tan leather seats and my name on the registration. The same car they gave me when I got promoted to Senior Solutions Architect last year. The promotion I worked 6 years for. The recognition I had earned. The car that represented everything I had sacrificed sleep, time, and health to achieve. Gone, not stolen, not impounded. Just lent by my husband to his sister. No warning, no discussion. Just a casual, Charlotte's Jeep is in the shop. She has interviews coming up. She needs something dependable. Yours is just sitting there anyway. It was never our car, it was mine. Or rather, it belonged to Scottsdale Tech, but it was assigned to me. I was liable for it. If Charlotte crashed it, the company's legal team would be calling me, not Owen. I had tried to say that. I had opened my mouth to explain exactly why this wasn't a good idea. But he'd hit me with the look. The one that meant I was being difficult. That I was letting him down. That I was failing some invisible, unwritten test he kept creating. You don't trust my family, he had said. Like it was a statement, like it was a fact. I said the only thing I knew would end the conversation. Of course I do. 2 days became a week. A week became 10 days. 10 days turned into Charlotte needing the car for client meetings, then needing it longer because the Jeep wasn't fixed, and then, well, eventually I stopped asking. Because every time I brought it up, Owen would sigh, annoyed. It's just a car, Abby. Why are you being so materialistic? Or worse, it's family. What's wrong with you? So I took cabs quietly, privately, every morning, $15 a ride. Sometimes more in traffic. 3 weeks of that. 3 weeks of showing up late. 3 weeks of coworkers whispering. 3 weeks of Jennifer watching me like I was an unraveling thread. 3 weeks of pretending like I hadn't been erased in my own life. And now it was Tuesday, the day everything came to a head. The meeting was almost over. Everyone packed up their laptops. People started heading for the door. Then Elena said it. Abigail, could you stay back for a moment? The others paused slightly, then filed out. Owen didn't move. He stayed near the window, thumbing through emails on his phone. When the door clicked shut, Elena turned to me and asked with polite curiosity, "Why did you arrive in a taxi today?" The question was gentle but piercing. I opened my mouth, ready to give her the lie I'd prepared. Something about a flat tire or oil changes. Or whatever fake excuse I hadn't already used. But I didn't have to speak. Because Owen, without looking up, said, "Her sister's using it now." Just like that. Elena's eyes flicked from him to me. And in that moment, everything, my job, my marriage, my dignity started to fracture. Elena didn't react right away. She looked at Owen, then at me. Her face was unreadable, but the silence in the room thickened like fog. "Your sister?" She repeated. I tried to find my voice, but Owen beat me to it again. "Charlotte," he said smoothly. "She's been using the car for a few weeks now. Her Jeep's in the shop. She has interviews." He said it like it was nothing. Like I wasn't standing right there, humiliated. Elena tilted her head slightly. "Charlotte," she said slowly, "is your sister." "Not Abigail's?" Something cracked in her tone professionalism, slipping just enough to let the truth cut through. She turned to me fully. "Abigail, is this true?" I hesitated, not because I didn't know the answer, but because for so long I had gotten used to protecting him. covering for him, downplaying everything. That reflex was still there, coiled in my throat, waiting to lie again. But I couldn't do it anymore. I met Elena's eyes. Yes, I said. He gave the card to his sister. Without asking me, without telling the company. It's been 3 weeks. Owen turned sharply toward me. Abby. I ignored him. I've asked for it back, I continued, multiple times. But every time I bring it up, he tells me I'm overreacting, or being selfish, or materialistic. But it's a company vehicle, I'm liable for it. My name is on the paperwork. Elena's face hardened. She looked back at Owen. Why did you think this was acceptable? Owen straightened his tie, all professionalism now. It was temporary, it wasn't a big deal. I didn't think it would escalate into this. This, Elena said flatly, is company property being used by an unauthorized party. You work in HR, you know better. He started to speak again, but she cut him off. Owen, I need you to step out. Abigail and I are going to have a conversation, alone. I think I should stay. You are part of the issue, she said calmly. And per our policy, HR cannot mediate when the complaint involves HR. You wrote that policy, Owen. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard. Owen's jaw clenched. He looked at me, his expression something between disbelief and betrayal, as if I had just turned a knife in his back. But I didn't flinch. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. We'll talk at home. He walked out, slow and tight, like every step was a punch to his pride. The door clicked shut behind him. And for the first time in a long time, I exhaled. Elena leaned forward slightly, folding her hands in front of her. You don't have to explain it all right now, she said. But I want you to understand something, Abigail. I nodded, waiting. You are not crazy. You are not selfish. And you are not overreacting, I blinked. Those words shouldn't have hit me the way they did. But they did. Because for years, I'd been told the opposite. I've seen this before, Elena went on, not often. But I've seen it. Men in power using policy as protection, gaslighting, control disguised as care. It's subtle, but it's real. I stared at her, heart racing. I didn't know who to talk to. He's HR. He signs off on everything. I know, she said. And that ends today. Tears threatened behind my eyes, but I held them back. Not here, not now. Elena stood up and walked over to the window, arms crossed, thinking. We're going to start a formal investigation. Legal will get involved. You'll be protected. You have my word. Then she turned back to me. But more than that, she said. I need you to tell me the rest. Not just about the car, everything. I hesitated. Then I started talking. I told her about the credit card he opened in my name. The vacations he booked using my PTO without asking. The forced volunteer work for his mother's charity. The time he submitted my self-review to the performance team but quietly altered the language to make me seem average. The way my bonuses kept mysteriously shrinking. The interruptions during meetings. The jokes about my soft skills. The smile he wore when he controlled every detail of my life and made me feel like I should be grateful for it. I talked until my voice cracked. And then I talked some more. When I was done, Elena didn't ask for proof. She didn't doubt me. She said one thing, let's get you out of this quietly and smartly. And then let's make some noise, and just like that, for the first time in years, I believed someone was finally on my side. The rest of that day felt like walking across ice I didn't know was thin until it began to crack beneath my feet. Owen didn't speak to me after the meeting. Not in the elevator, not in the parking garage. Not in the car ride home, where I sat in the passenger seat of his black Range Rover, staring out the window while he gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't even mention the meeting. The silence between us was louder than any fight we'd ever had. When we pulled into the driveway, the first thing I noticed was that the Audi Q7 was still missing. Of course it was. He parked without a word. I got out and walked into the house. The stale scent of lavender candles and yesterday's dishes greeting me like a reminder of everything that had been ignored. Just like me. He followed me into the kitchen, tossed his keys on the counter, and finally spoke. So that's how you're gonna play this? I turned around slowly. Play what? You brought our personal life into the office. In front of Elena. That was a violation of trust, Abigail. I laughed, not a happy laugh. A hollow, breathless one that sounded more like disbelief. You gave my work vehicle to your sister without asking me. Then you told my boss like it was no big deal. It wasn't a big deal, he snapped. Until you made it one. I stepped forward, keeping my voice low. You made it one when you took away my authority. When you made me feel crazy for even asking for the car back. When you made it a fight every time I tried to talk about it. I was helping my sister, he said, voice rising. That's what family does. And what about your wife? I shot back. What did they get? He looked at me for a long time like I was a stranger standing in his kitchen. I don't even know who you are anymore. That stung, but I didn't let it show, not this time. Maybe that's because you've spent years shaping me into what you wanted me to be, I said quietly. Now that I'm saying no, suddenly I'm unrecognizable. He stared at me, jaw clenched, breathing hard. I'm not doing this with you, he muttered and walked out of the kitchen. I stood there, heart pounding. My hands trembled, but I didn't cry. Not this time. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not because he told me to, but because I needed space to think without his eyes watching me, judging me, rewriting my truth. The next morning, the car was back. Parked in the driveway like it had never left, spotless, gas tank full. Charlotte didn't say anything. She just dropped the keys through the mail slot. No apology. No explanation, nothing, like she was returning something she had borrowed from him, not me. At work, Elena moved fast. By noon, I was sitting in a private meeting with a representative from legal. She asked questions gently but firmly. She wasn't looking for gossip, she wanted patterns, evidence, timelines. I gave her everything I had. Email screenshots, calendar invites, performance review discrepancies, even my bank statement showing the charges from the credit card Owen had opened without telling me. By 2 p.m., Owen's access to HR records had been temporarily frozen. By 5 p.m., I received a message from Elena, "You're protected. From this point forward, any interactions with Owen will go through legal." And just like that, the power balance shifted. At home, Owen tried to play it cool. He was suddenly attentive. Made dinner, asked about my day. Said maybe we should take a weekend away soon, just us. I didn't take the bait. He saw it. You think this is going to end well for you? He asked over dinner, fork in hand, like a weapon he hadn't figured out how to use. I didn't answer. You think they're going to side with you? He pressed. You're emotional. I've been with this company 10 years. I am HR. You were, I said calmly. Now you're the complaint. The mask cracked for the first time. I saw it in his eyes, the fear, not just of losing his job, but of losing control over me. He stood up, knocking his chair back. Don't forget who built this life, Abby. You needed me. You still do. I looked up at him and smiled slow, quiet, and terrifyingly calm. No, I just finally realized I don't. He stared at me, stunned. I picked up my plate, scraped my untouched dinner into the trash, and walked out of the room. For the first time in 6 years, I felt full, not from food, but from the first taste of freedom. The next day at work, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. There were no confrontations, no whispers in the hallway, no dramatic emails flying back and forth. But I felt it. I walked in with the keys to the Audi back in my hand. My parking spot was open. I pulled in slowly, sat in the driver's seat for a few minutes, hands on the wheel like I was holding something sacred, and just breathed. The leather still smelled like me. My perfume lingered faintly on the seatbelt. The radio was tuned to my favorite podcast. It was like the car had been waiting for me to come back to myself. Inside the building, people noticed. Jennifer, my assistant, glanced at the car key on my desk and gave me a tiny, knowing nod. You look different today, she said as she handed me my morning report. I feel different, I replied. That wasn't a lie. Later that afternoon, Elena called me into her office. Close the door, she said gently. I did. I spoke with legal, she continued. We're beginning a formal inquiry. But I wanted to talk to you directly about something more important. I sat down, unsure of where this was going. Elena leaned forward. I went back through your last 3 performance reviews. I also reviewed the feedback your direct reports submitted that never made it into your file. My heart thudded. The language in your files has been sanitized, she said, her face darkening. Mediocre scores, no standout comments. Yet your peers and your team consistently rate you as one of the strongest performers on the floor. You should have been on track for a director role by now. I swallowed hard. He told me it was to avoid the appearance of favoritism. Elena shook her head. He told your manager to submit only minimal scores. He wanted it on record that you were average because if you stood out, it would look like nepotism. And conveniently, that would give him leverage over your growth. I felt something burn in my chest, not sadness, rage. All those nights I spent working late. All the weekends I sacrificed. All the extra initiatives I led, the onboarding I did, the mentoring I offered to new hires for nothing. Because he had made me invisible, Elena pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. This is your real promotion packet. The one that should have been submitted last quarter. I opened it with shaking hands. Letters from coworkers, recommendations, a detailed breakdown of my projects and leadership. It was glowing, overwhelming, all of it authentic, all of it true. Everything I'd done was there, just hidden. Elena, I didn't even know this existed, I said, voice low. You weren't supposed to, she replied. But I'm done letting people like Owen decide which women get to be seen. She paused, then said, This gets submitted today. And we're also moving you under a new department, new manager. Effective immediately. I blinked. Wait, I'm not reporting to Owen anymore? No, she said firmly. You don't answer to him, not here, not at home, not ever again. I felt it then. Something cracking inside me, but in a good way, like a shell breaking open. Like someone had peeled away the layers of quiet obedience and reminded me I had teeth. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Don't say anything, Elena replied. Just step into the role you've already earned. I left her office clutching that folder like it was a lifeline. That night, Owen noticed the change. He was already home, seated in the living room with a drink, pretending not to wait up. Long day? He asked casually, like we were still a functioning couple. Productive, I said, setting my bag down. He turned the TV down, sensing something. You're acting smug, he said. I raised an eyebrow. You know. He stood up, walked over, looked me in the eye. You think Elena's going to protect you? This won't go the way you think it will. I stared right back. It already is, he scoffed, shaking his head. You're emotional. They'll see through you eventually. They already did, I replied. He opened his mouth, closed it, then laughed bitterly. You wouldn't even be in that job if it weren't for me. I made you? I took a step forward, holding his gaze, unflinching. No, you managed me, you silenced me. You used my loyalty as a leash. Then I leaned in, voice calm. But now I've cut it. He went quiet, and for once he didn't have a comeback. I walked upstairs, changed into pajamas, and locked the bedroom door behind me, not out of fear, but out of choice. Because for the first time in years, I was no longer afraid of being alone. I was afraid of wasting one more second being small for someone who only ever felt big when I shrank. I didn't expect the fallout to come so fast. 2 days after Elena submitted the corrected promotion documents, I was called into another meeting. This time, it wasn't just Elena. It was her, the company's general counsel, and a compliance officer I'd only seen in training videos. Don't be nervous, Elena said as I sat down. We're not here to interrogate you. We're here to protect you. Still, my hands were cold, my palms damp. I had spent so long walking on eggshells, I forgot what solid ground felt like. The general counsel, a calm, measured woman named Priya, began reviewing the timeline, the unauthorized use of company property, the manipulated performance reviews, the misuse of HR authority in my case, and even Owen's internal communications regarding my file. They had receipts, emails, Slack messages, audit logs. Owen had left a paper trail because he thought no one would ever question him, that I wouldn't, that I couldn't, and until recently. He'd been right. He altered your file 3 separate times, Priya said, including downgrading a review your manager submitted last April. She rated you exceeds expectations. He changed it to meets. I blinked hard. I remembered that quarter. I had led 2 successful launches, trained a new team, and still hit my targets. When the review came back average, I had felt the sting, but I convinced myself maybe I'd overestimated my work. Maybe I wasn't as good as I thought. No, I was good. He just made sure no one saw it. Elena will handle the reporting restructure, Priya continued. You're no longer under Owen's authority in any capacity, and we'll be suspending him pending investigation. I nodded slowly. It was what I wanted, what I needed. But it didn't feel victorious yet. It felt fragile, Will you be safe at home? Elena asked. The question struck a nerve. I think so, I said. He hasn't been violent. Just controlling. Control escalates when power is taken away, Elena said gently. If you need a security referral or if you decide to stay somewhere else, the company will cover that. No questions asked. The words hit me harder than I expected. Not because I felt unsafe yet, but because no one had ever acknowledged that what he did to me was dangerous. It didn't leave bruises. It left doubt, silence, sickness in my stomach every time I tried to stand up for myself, but now I was standing. That night I packed a bag, not because he hit me. He didn't, but because I no longer trusted the quiet. He came home at 6:47 p.m., like he always did. His shoes clicked against the tile. His keys landed on the counter. I heard, he said. Just that. I stayed in the kitchen, sipping tea. I didn't flinch. They suspended me, he added, tone tight. You happy now? I turned to face him calm. No, I'm not happy you did all of this to me. I'm not happy I let you. His face twisted. You're acting like a victim. I walked past him, slow and deliberate, and picked up my overnight bag. I'm not acting, I said. I was one, now I'm just done. Where are you going? To a hotel, somewhere quiet. Somewhere you're not, he scoffed. You really think people will keep siding with you forever? Eventually, they'll see you're just emotional. But you've blown this all out of proportion. I stared at him, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt nothing when he raised his voice. No fear, no urge to fix it, just detachment. I'm not the one who left a digital footprint of every lie, I said. You did that? He opened his mouth, closed it, then sat down at the kitchen island like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. You're throwing everything away, he muttered. No, I said, walking to the door. I'm finally holding on to something. He didn't ask me to stay. He didn't try to stop me. He just sat there surrounded by the silence he once used to control me. And I stepped into a new one I had chosen for myself. The hotel was nothing fancy. A small suite at the Residence Inn a few miles from work. Neutral walls, impersonal decor, and a smell of over-bleached sheets that oddly brought comfort. It was quiet, no footsteps pacing upstairs. No passive-aggressive sighs. No refrigerator door slamming closed because I forgot to buy almond milk. It was the first night I'd slept without grinding my teeth in years. And when I woke up, I didn't have to brace myself for what mood Owen would be in. I didn't need to tiptoe. I didn't need to rehearse polite answers for things I didn't agree with. I just got up. That morning, I opened my laptop, planning to check emails before heading into the office. Instead, I opened something else. A backup folder. See, months ago, I'd set up automatic cloud syncing for my shared drive at work. At the time, it wasn't a spy, it was just habit. A safety net in case a file got corrupted or deleted. I forgot all about it. But now I was staring at folders of internal HR documents, dozens of them, including some with my name. I hesitated, then clicked. Performance evaluations, HR memos. Email chains. Memos Owen wrote about conflict of interest concerns regarding my promotion. Suggestions to monitor Abigail's metrics more closely to avoid perception issues. He had been laying the groundwork for a year. Quietly downgrading my reviews. Pushing for my projects to be assigned elsewhere. Writing anonymous peer feedback about me needing to work on emotional regulation, a line I had once cried over. Wondering which coworker had stabbed me in the back. It was him. All of it. Every hurdle I'd struggled to jump had been placed there by the man I married. But one email froze me completely. It was from Owen to my former manager, dated just 3 days after my promotion. Just want to make sure we're aligned here. I recommend we avoid any further advancement discussions until Q4. Too much movement will raise eyebrows. She's already getting the company vehicle, let's manage expectations. Let's manage expectations. He was talking about me like I was a difficult employee, not his wife, like I was an asset to be throttled. Like too much success on my part might cause him problems. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. I thought of the nights I'd sat beside him on the couch, laptop on my thighs, stress pounding through my skull while he played Xbox, how I'd explained my fears that I wasn't good enough, that maybe I wasn't cut out for leadership. How he'd reassured me, hugged me, told me to trust the process. And all along, he was the process. He built the glass ceiling above me, then handed me a mop and told me to clean it. I forwarded the folder to Elena. No explanation, no cover letter, just the truth. That afternoon, I walked into work like I belonged there. Because I did. No Owen in the hallway, no cold glances, no tension. Just space. Jennifer smiled at me like she hadn't in weeks. "You look taller today," she said. "I finally unpacked some weight," I replied. At lunch, Elena called me in. "I saw the documents," she said, her voice measured but dark. "Thank you for trusting me with this," I nodded. "We've escalated this. Internal audit has already confirmed at least 6 violations. Legal's involved now. Owen's facing more than suspension. This could result in termination. And litigation. For a moment, I felt pity, then it passed. What happens next? I asked. You focus on your new role, she said. Let us handle the rest, I smiled. Not out of revenge, not out of satisfaction. Just out of relief. Because for the first time, I didn't have to fight this alone. Back at the hotel that evening, I poured a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and stared at the same folder. I hovered over the delete button, but I didn't press it. Because maybe one day I'd need the reminder that even the person closest to you can sabotage you quietly, but you can survive louder. And now I was done whispering. The call came on a Thursday. I was in a late meeting, walking my new team through our Q1 integration strategy when my phone buzzed. I saw the name attorney Lisa Duran and excused myself from the room. Hi, this is Abigail, I answered, already knowing what this was about. Lisa's voice was firm, professional, but kind. I'm calling to confirm Owen has received formal notice of the company's intent to terminate. The documents were delivered this morning. I closed my eyes, absorbing the words like oxygen after being underwater too long. We're proceeding with dismissal on the grounds of misconduct, falsification of documents, and abuse of internal HR protocols, she continued. There may be follow-up depending on whether he challenges it. I didn't ask if he would. Owen always fought when he didn't get his way. But this time, the facts weren't in his favor. For once, he was the one under scrutiny. And he didn't have the power to shift the narrative anymore. Thank you, I said, my voice steady. We'll keep you updated. And if you feel unsafe at any time at all, you call me or security. Understood? I do, I replied. And thank you for everything. I drove home that evening. Not to the hotel. Home. The same house Owen and I had shared for 5 years. The one I had picked, decorated, filled with scented candles and throw pillows and carefully chosen furniture that matched his minimalist taste. Now it just felt like a stage set. The second I stepped inside, it hit me. The emptiness wasn't new, it had always been here. I had just been too exhausted, too gaslit, too overworked to see it. The kitchen looked untouched. No groceries, no coffee cups in the sink. No, Owen, good. I climbed the stairs slowly, one hand on the banister like I was walking through his house. Our bedroom door was open. My side of the closet was still full. His side, not so much. He'd started packing. A pile of shirts was missing. A few drawers left half open. The safe, the one he used for important things, was unlocked. Papers were missing. But what caught my attention was the box on my vanity, my wedding ring. Sitting on top, alone. I hadn't worn it in weeks. I told myself it was because I was giving him space, but deep down, I think I was already mourning the marriage long before I admitted it was dead. I walked over and picked it up, holding it in the light. The diamonds still sparkled. The band still flawless. But it meant nothing now. It never protected me. Never gave me security. It was just a pretty cage I wore on my hand while slowly losing my voice. I dropped it back in the box and shut it. I opened my drawers and began packing, this time for real, not to flee, but to move on. That night, as I folded sweaters and wrapped framed photos in bubble wrap, a part of me kept waiting for the sound of the door unlocking, for Owen to come home full of rage or remorse, for him to try one more time to control the narrative. But he didn't. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up. And maybe that was the final truth I needed. He only stayed when I was silent. Now that I wasn't, there was nothing left for him here. Around midnight, I found the scrapbook I started our first year of marriage. It had photos from our honeymoon, concert tickets, holiday cards, all the highlights. No arguments. No quiet manipulations. No nights I cried in the shower so he wouldn't hear me. I closed the book and slid it into the leave behind pile, because not every memory deserves to come with you. The next morning, I stood in the driveway. The Audi was polished, freshly detailed again, the way it always looked when I was the one in control of it. Jennifer pulled up beside me to help with the boxes. She glanced at the house, then at me. "You okay?" I smiled, not the kind of smile you force when everything hurts, the kind that comes from being free. "Yeah," I said. "I'm okay. Where are you headed?" She asked, loading a box into her trunk. "Somewhere with better light," I replied, because I'd spent too long in the shadows of someone else's ambition. And now it was my time to shine. I signed the lease on a Friday. A 2-bedroom condo just 15 minutes from work, perched on the 4th floor with a balcony that overlooked the city lights. It wasn't huge. It wasn't flashy. But it was mine. Every room felt like an inhale I had been holding for years. There was no echo of Owen's voice here. No carefully measured silences, no tension lurking behind every "are you sure?" Or maybe not today. Just space. And peace. The first night I moved in, I unpacked slowly. I opened every drawer, placed every mug with intention, chose where my books would go, not based on what looked aesthetic, but on what felt right. I lit a candle and left it burning for hours just because I could. No one told me it was wasteful. No one rolled their eyes. I slept with the windows open. On Monday morning, I drove the Audi into work like I used to, but this time it wasn't just a commute. It was a quiet victory. When I walked into the office, people didn't look at me with pity anymore. They looked at me with something else, respect. Jennifer grinned. "Nice to see you in your car again. Nice to feel like myself again," I said. Elena stopped me in the hallway and handed me a folder. Board review approved it. "Your title change is effective immediately." "Welcome, Director." My throat tightened. It was real, no interference, no sabotage. No one to undercut the win. Just me, my work, and the truth finally catching up. Later that afternoon, an internal memo went out, effective immediately. O&M has been terminated from his position as HR Director following internal investigation findings of misconduct. Scottsdale Tech remains committed to a safe and equitable work environment. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I just stared at the screen for a long moment, then quietly closed the tab. Days passed. The questions slowed down. People stopped asking what happened. The whispers faded. Work returned to normal. But I never went back to being who I was before. One day, I ran into Charlotte, his sister, at the pharmacy. She looked surprised to see me. "Hey," she said awkwardly. "I've been meaning to reach out." I waited. "Just about the car." And everything, I said nothing. Just watched her fumble. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, forced a smile. "You know, Owen was just trying to help me." I smiled back, but there was steel in it now. "He helped himself to things that weren't his. Just like you did." Her face flushed. "I didn't mean." "I know," I interrupted. "But you did it anyway." And I walked away. I didn't owe her grace, not anymore. A month after the dust settled, I received a message. From Owen, just a single sentence. "Do you ever think about what we could have had?" I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, "Yes, and I'm so glad we didn't." Blocked the number. Deleted the thread, done. The funny thing about getting your life back is realizing how much of it was never yours to begin with. It had been curated, controlled, edited for comfort as comfort. But now I make my own coffee, the wrong way, and I like it. Now I sleep with the lights on if I want to. Now I say what I mean. Out loud, without apology. People still talk sometimes. They say I was brave, that I stood up for myself. But the truth? I wasn't brave. I was done. Done shrinking, done apologizing. Done playing small to keep a man who only ever felt big when I disappeared. And when my boss handed me that Audi key and said, "This is yours now," I thought I was being rewarded for a job. But I wasn't. I was being reminded I was never the problem. I was just too powerful to keep small. And now? Now I take up space. Everywhere I go.